Atma Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Pranic Healing podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk about if pranic healing can aid the recovery from cancer. And we're going to talk about real stories and the insights of how pranic healing does this work. And our guest speaker for this episode is Saurabh Thirani. So, Saurabh is a full time pranic healer. He's also a pranic healing instructor and a center owner. And Saurabh has been with Pranic Healing for over 24 years, and he has done amazing work. And I'm really excited for Saurabh to come on the podcast and talk about this amazing topic of how pranic healing can help people with cancer. So please welcome Saurabh.
Hello, thank you so much for having me over, Jason.
Yes, thank you for coming on, Saurabh. I think we
My
connected
pleasure.
online through, social media, and it's really great to see your work as well. I love your videos, and I was telling you, I love your background as well. Um, but just to kind of get us started here, I know, Pranic Healing, and you're a center owner in India. Pranic Healing is very, I would say, probably the most popular in India. But how did you kind of get started in this journey, Saurabh? Because still, it's not conventional by most people's standards.
In my case, what actually led me to healing, specifically alternative healing, complementary healing, throughout the time when I was growing up, my mother used to be very, very ill. She had very, very chronic asthma. We tried just about everything, right, which you could do medically. She used to have oxygen dependency. She'd be on inhalers. She'd be on nebulizers. Nothing was really solving the problem. So right from the time when I was a teen, I used to be like, okay, there must be something which can be done. And this is one of the things which led me to try looking at healing when it comes to trying to use other modalities. So through my school, through my college, I studied about 17 different modalities. And after I finished my college, I went to work. And after that, I was doing my MBA at that time. So one of these sem breaks, I came back and my mom is like, I was asking, how are you doing? How's your health? She's like, yeah, I'm completely recovered. I'm completely cured. So it's like, okay, what happened? How did you suddenly get completely cured? Then she told me about the fact that she had learned pranic healing. She'd been applying it. So that was one of the triggers that I was like, wow, you have a modality which is so powerful. Let's just give this a shot. And that's specifically when we had tried about 70 different things. Okay, you name it. I have almost always tried everything, like, which could have been done. And so that was one of the triggers just to learn more about healing. The other trigger was, again, what I observed is pranic healing is also a gateway or a bridge to spirituality. So the second thing which really attracted me was with pranic healing comes Aratik Yoga, which gives you a roadmap to spirituality, where you learn these advanced meditation techniques and so on. So that was my initial, so to speak, journey or foray into pranic healing. Over the years, I kept at it. I used to keep meditating, I used to keep healing, practicing. The more I would use pranic healing, I found that different aspects of my life got better. So that was basically where my journey took me. 2018, I just got fed up with my corporate career, decided to quit. I'm passionate about pranic healing, so decided to do it full time. So that's, in a brief, my story.
Yeah, well, that's amazing to hear that, especially I find that a lot of people join pranic healing because of a loved one having, a health condition, or the healer, the pranic healer itself having a health condition. I myself had a health condition, so that's why I started looking as well. But it's amazing to hear that, yeah, it helped your mother so much, and you now are a full-time healer instructor and center owner after, it sounds like your career in tech, you just kind of, decided to move on from that. So that's amazing. So let's jump into today's topic, which is how pranic healing can help people with cancer. So um, for those of us that may be new to energy healing, how does pranic healing view cancer, and how does pranic healing understand cancer as a disease from an energetic point of view?
Okay, possibly might be a little long answer. So, see, the entire concept behind pranic healing is you've got a two-part body. You have a visible, physical body, something which you can see. Around this, you have what is called the energy body. Okay, now again, if you take a look at literature, different people, there'll be different terms. Sometimes some people call it a bioplasmic body, some people call it energy body, aura. So fundamentally, the entire concept behind pranic healing is this biofield or this energy field or this aura is the mold. It influences the physical body. Now, the concept behind pranic healing is when there is something wrong with the physical body, it's actually got to do with the energetic disturbance, so as to speak, in the aura or in the energy body. Now, the concept behind pranic healing, you've got two base main principles. The principle number one is what is called the principle of self recovery, which basically means that your body in general is capable of healing itself or normalizing itself. You get a broken bone, you get a cut, you get a small burn. To a certain extent, your body can heal itself, repair itself. Even if you get a particular disease, disorder, for example, you got a very severe bacterial infection, your doctor might give you antibiotics. Per se, the antibiotic does not heal you, it helps the body heal itself. Okay, so that's the first principle. The second principle behind pranic healing is that for your body to heal itself, to repair itself, it needs energy. Now, again, this is in a sense very, very intuitive. Supposing you get a cut, you'll have blood which rushes to the surface. You'll have white blood cells which will come, try to combat infection. You're going to have platelets, there will be clotting, there will be cellular repair, whatever. Fundamentally, intuitively, there has to be some sort of an energy that your body heals to. Uh, uh, they Intuitively, you know that there'll be some sort of an energy that the body uses to heal itself or repair itself, right? So that's a fundamental thing in terms of how pranic healing works. Now, this particular energy or this bioenergy is what is called prana in the Indian tradition. The same concept of energy exists in multiple traditions. In China, they call it chi. In Japanese, they call it ki. It's in just about all these spiritual traditions. Now, the concept behind pranic healing is if you want to increase the rate at which your body can heal, one of the ways you can actually accomplish this is by increasing the concentration or the quantity of this energy in the aura. So that's again about the fundamentals of how pranic healing works. Now, when it comes to the physical body, what tends to happen is you have organs. In the energy body, we also have quote unquote organs or what we call energy centers. There are multiple energy centers across the entire body which regulate the flow of this energy to different organs. Now, whenever you talk about any particular kind of disease, one of the causes of this is some of these energy centers malfunction. So that causes imbalances. That is what one of the things it does is it causes disease. Now, specifically, when we talk about cancer, the way pranic healing views it is there are multiple factors. Okay, so one of the factors is again physical. With cancer, one of the things you find is it usually always is got a genetic trigger. Okay, so there is something to do with our DNA, something to do with our genes, which causes at some particular points of times with some trigger, it causes your cells or your organs in the body to behave abnormally. Again, the way Pranic Healing looks at it, there are other factors as well which cause cancer. One of the other factors it talks about is emotions. Specifically, when there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of upset, there's a lot of hatred, it triggers or it creates that condition which causes your cells to multiply abnormally. Another factor, again, if you try taking a look at it more from a spiritual lens, is something to do with what is called the law of karma. The law of karma states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So, one of the things, again, what we have been taught, what we tend to believe, is karma also has a role. Sometimes diseases which are terminal, like cancer, they have a karmic factor, and that karmic factor is usually that of cruelty. Now, when you're talking about using pranic healing to heal cancer, first thing to really understand is pranic healing is not meant to be alternate medicine. It means it is complementary, which basically means that the patient has to go to the doctors, take the suitable medical treatment. It's finally again left to the discretion of the patient to decide what constitutes the correct medical treatment. So the first thing the patient needs to do is take the right medical treatment. Through the tools of pranic healing, you can accomplish a few things. First thing, what you can do is you can try and normalize the energy body. Once you clean, remove the dirty disease energy, you infuse fresh prana, what happens is the body is able to heal itself, repair itself. The second aspect with respect to pranic healing is working on the mental health or removing these or trying to help people remove or get rid of some of these negative thoughts, emotions. There's self-healing techniques. One of the things which has really been emphasized is techniques like forgiveness. Again, there's meditations like the meditation of twin hearts, where you've got scientific evidence where it's been documented to show an improvement in quality of life for people who are battling cancer. So you have an entire bunch of these self-healing techniques which help someone work on their mental health. Another very critical aspect when it comes to cancer is that lots of people have fear, lots of stress, lots of anxiety, lots of fear. There's a crazy financial drain. On top of that, lots of people always lay awake at night wondering, okay, am I going to see this through? Will things get resolved? So again, the second aspect with respect to pranic healing is working on the mental health. So when people have good mental health, that is what also strengthens the resolve and the willpower to combat the combat the disease and completely recover from it. And finally, you've got other spiritual aspects such as karma. Now, the point is, just because you say a disease is karmic doesn't mean you can't really do something about it. The techniques, the teachings of pranic healing is the fact that even if you have lots of negative karma, it's possible for you to neutralize that. So again, one of the things we do suggest to patients is you need to really work on that particular aspect. Also, specifically, try donating money for noble charitable spiritual causes, do service for the good of others. Also, the practice of the meditation on twin hearts also is one of the tools which generates a lot of good karma. So, in a nutshell, these are some of the ways in which pranic healing views cancer. Again, this is the disease. It's got multiple dimensions. There's physical, there's the emotional dimension, and there's a deeper spiritual or karmic dimension.
Yeah. That's a very thorough answer. Thank you for explaining that, Saurabh. I think that's you bring up a great point because as a complement to conventional medicine, you brought up many different factors that Master Choa has taught us in Pranic Healer, and especially in related to cancer, which we know is one of the most challenging physical diseases even medicine is able to treat nowadays, right? And a lot of the times, conventional medicine, even though people might um, recover from cancer, right, and have remission, there's still a lot of different side effects. And I think you mentioned a couple of things that can really help support patients on their cancer care journey and just making their overall quality of life better. So what I heard was, mental health and helping, especially with the physical symptoms as well, especially from the side effects from the chemo or radiation and things like that. So that's really amazing to hear. And I wanted to kind of go in a little bit deeper on that because we know that I personally know many people that have been affected by cancer, and I'm sure you as well with with your connections and with your patients and clients and like that. So can you kind of help us? Ground what you told us about and how pranic healing helps with mental health, how pranic healing helps with quality of life, how pranic healing, helps with some of these fears of these patients because it's very typical fear of maybe it coming back. How does pranic healing help with that? And do you have any
Hmm.
examples to share to kind of help the
So,
audience understand? Yeah.
so really good, really, really, really good question. Okay, now the first thing, easier one to start off with, or the easier one to explain, is to do with mental health, right? So now, usually, when you talk about cancer, there'll be two different types of issues. Initially, whenever someone gets a diagnosis, the first reaction, so as to speak, is there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear. People feel as if the entire world has come tumbling down, right? Now, again, certain times what happens because of this kind of fear, people again find it very difficult to cope with what's really going on, right? Now, over a period of time, that's initially in the when you talk about the mental health as the first stage. After a point, once the initial shock is over, lots of times we notice patients, they slip into a different pattern. It starts being, and not like a better word, a lot of the repressed anger, upset, hurt, it all comes to the surface. A lot of them feel that, why did this happen to me? Why do bad things happen to me, and so on, right? So the first thing, again, with respect to cancer, with respect to just about any disease, any problems, a lot of it is actually mental. till the time your mental health is not in order, it's very difficult for us to cope with and overcome any challenges that we keep or that we are facing. So one of the most important things is the tools of pranic psychotherapy. When you apply pranic psychotherapy, to a large extent, you can disintegrate a lot of these negative thoughts, emotions, feelings from a particular patient. Most important thing is to make sure that the patient is in a positive frame of mind. They, inherently believe that, yeah, this is a disease, this is a problem, I will beat it, I'll overcome it. Okay, now that's the first major aspect. The second aspect is largely got to do with physical. Now, in terms of cancer, typically there are only three ways in which you can treat it using conventional medicine. It might sound a little crude, but the only three things they can do is they can cut it, they can poison it, they can burn it. They can't do anything else. So what do we mean by cutting it? Certain cases, it is possible for you to remove the malignant tumor through surgery, right? When you talk about poisoning it, that's where we're talking about chemo. Chemo in general is like a poison which is injected in the body. The entire idea is, irrespective of what you do, chemo has side effects. No matter how targeted is the therapy, the entire idea of chemo is to target the malignant cells and destroy them. Now, the problem again happens with the treatment chemo. There are lots and lots of side effects which can take place. With pranic healing, there are a couple of things you can typically do. One of the things we do is we also have protocols in pranic healing. Like for one of the ways to really understand pranic healing is, if you've got different diseases, you've got a different sequence of steps. So, for example, just to give you another a different example, someone's got a cardiac problem. The way you treat a patient who's got a arrhythmia is slightly different from how you treat a patient who's got a coronary artery disorder versus an enlarged heart versus a defective valve. So again, if you take a look at pranic healing, you'll notice it's very, very specific. They are very, very specific protocols. So that's one of the things which makes pranic healing really amazing. The way Master Chokutsui structured it is, he's taken the art and the guesswork out of it. Everything is structured. These are a sequence of steps. You follow this protocol, and you most of the times will get the expected results. Now, in pranic healing, you also have protocols in terms of how you can tweak the drugs to reduce the negative effects or the adverse effects. You've got protocols using which you can take the same chemo drugs, you can make it more targeted, just to make sure that the drugs are more effective. In general, from my experience, when we treat patients who undergo multiple cycles of chemotherapy, when pranic healing is applied properly, and also very, very importantly, if the patient cooperates with you, you would be able to diminish or reduce the side effects by 40, 50, 60%. Okay, certain cases even more. This is one of the things we noticed with some of our patients who started their treatment journey. After 2 or 3 cycles, they're like, I'm really struggling, can't tend to take the chemo. And then you start applying pranic healing, they start noticing it becomes a lot easier. Also, when you talk about chemo specifically, there are lots and lots of resultant residual side effects. Some of the common ones are, like, sometimes people have mouth ulcers, they get edema. Again, in slightly advanced stage of diseases, sometimes they will have ascites. But one of the most common side effects is it affects the gut. They will usually have nausea, loose motions. Lots and lots of times they have constipation. One of the reasons why you tend to have a lot of these problems is chemo, as such, jolts your immune system. It jolts the immune response. So as you keep applying the protocol for cancer, one of the things you basically do, not only are you trying to disintegrate the abnormal cells, not only are you trying to normalize the situation of the body, you're also able to deal with some of these adverse effects by strengthening the immune response of the overall body. The third aspect which you talk about is radiation. Now, again, radiation, it's you're trying to burn, it's again applicable in certain cases. You're trying to burn the abnormal cells through exposure to radiation. The problem, again, lots and lots of times, what you notice is it will also, to a certain extent, cause damage to the organs or to the tissues which are healthy, which are adjacent. It's again the same thing with pranic healing. If you're able to apply pranic healing treatment properly, you'll be able to reduce side effects significantly, right? So again, depends on which portion of the body, but you should be able to get about 40 to 70% or 80% reduction in terms of chemo. So I still remember the first cancer case I ever treated. She had this patient, she had breast cancer. So finished chemo, finished the surgery, and then the doctors wanted to do a wanted her to undergo about 21 cycles of exposure to chemo. So again, it was the drill. Every morning I would heal her. She would go for radiation. She would come back. She'd tell me, okay, I'm just back from radiation. I would again heal her again, just to make sure that you don't have side effects. 21 cycles later, she goes to visit the doc. The doc is like, okay, do you have any pain, discomfort? She's like, no, perfect. And he's like, no burning, no nothing. And I don't know, the doctor with that particular point of time was like, no, there's something wrong which has happened. Maybe the radiation hasn't worked properly. So as a reward, we got about 10 additional cycles of radiation to contend with. Right. So again, nowadays I coach my patients. When you go to the doctor, he tells you, do you have pain, discomfort? Please say yes. We don't want more radiation, right? So again, when you talk about the chemo treatment, it really does help accelerate. Okay. Now again, when you talk about pranic healing, there's another important aspect. Pranic healing looks again at disease and all of life through again a little bit of a spiritual lens. What I tend to believe that when you talk about recovery from a disease or an ailment, when you talk about doctors, when you talk about the healers, maximum all of us put together can do is probably 50, 60%. A lot of the recovery is also got to do with how much of effort the patient is going to take. Now again, you have to, with certain diseases, look at the root cause. Again, with cancer, based on what we've been taught and what is our general experience, one of the core root causes of cancer is emotions, negative thoughts, emotions, especially anger. Right. So again, patients have to work on their own thoughts and emotions. Lots of times, why do people get angry? Because they feel they've been treated badly, they've been hurt by someone else. The remedy out there is forgiveness. Another important aspect is what is called the law of mercy, right? You want the great ones, you want the Lord to have mercy on you, to make sure you can overcome the disease. So if you want mercy, divine mercy, one of the things you need to do is becoming merciful. So another one of the aspects which Master Chokutsui focused a lot in terms of is super, super, super important for you to look at your diet, specifically if possible become vegetarian. Also avoid what he calls the yang foods. Okay, yang foods are basically foods which cause heat in your body. So again, there's some guidelines which are given, which again master said optional. See if you can do it, it's going to be helpful. So you have this second aspect which has also got to do with your diet. The third aspect is to do with what are the kind of thoughts and emotions you're producing throughout the day. um, are you being kind to yourself in terms of your thoughts, your words, your actions, and so on? Do you think about entire the world positively? Are you avoiding negative thought patterns, negative situations, environments? So again, lots of times when the patient follows all of this, you get results which what should you call it? Very, very encouraging, very, very significant. Also, one more thing, Jason, since you asked about this relapse, what happens, cancer goes into remission and people are terrified even after that. What if it comes back? Usually, the unfortunate part about cancer is lots and lots of times it does come back. Now, see, again, the way at least I understand this from my limited understanding in my research, cancer is always genetic. Now, what happens is you've got a malignancy, you've got some abnormal growth of cells in a particular part of your body. Now, there is obviously genetic pattern. That's why that was triggered in your body. That's why your body tends to do that. If your cells have transformed abnormally once, there's a very, very great chance it's going to do it again. And lots of patients, you notice it cancer does relapse after several years. What can you do? Now, one of the things again to talk about pranic healing is a lot of it has got to do with what is the energetic configuration of your aura, your chakras. Usually, the point is you've got multiple energy centers or chakras in your body. Ordinary people, they're about 3, 4 inches in diameter, about this much, right? Now, in terms of, they all have to be about more or less the same size in terms of diameter. That's what's harmony, that's what's balance. In diseases like cancer, what you do see is the pattern is very, very unique in the sense all the energy centers on the top part of the body, they tend to be small, underactivated. The ones in the lower part of your body tend to be overactivated. Now, the point is, when you do your healing, one of the things you're trying to do, all you're trying to do in pranic healing, irrespective of which level you're starting with, all that the healer is trying to do is just normalize this energetic configuration. Make sure you remove dirty disease energy which is there within the body, infuse it with fresh energy or fresh prana, and normalize this chakral pattern. Now, the moment you normalize this chakral pattern, your physical body starts healing. It starts healing itself. It starts repairing itself. Another very, very important component is the regular practice of the meditation and twin hearts, which is taught by Master Chokuksui. If you do this meditation regularly, one of the things, and specifically more for cancer patients, when they do it regularly, it actually tries to reverse the default chakral pattern. One of the things that are now very, very difficult to prove it, but in general, if what I tend to believe, based on my understanding, people who do the meditation twin hearts regularly for years, very, very unlikely they will ever get cancer. Also, if there's a patient, again, we notice this with patients we have in general. I specialize in healing cancer. Unfortunately, 90% of my patients don't cooperate with me. Now, one of the things we want in terms of cooperation is they need to do the meditation on twin hearts regularly every single day for the rest of their life. The best results I've seen with patients are the ones who are going to the doctors, taking the necessary treatment, getting pranic healing done, and working on themselves specifically, practicing regularly the meditation and twin hearts. So all of these three put together can give you better odds, much better odds of beating cancer. So again, it'd be really nice if you can have more research to illustrate that. At least there is some good documentation research which is available about the positive role the meditation of twin hearts has when it comes to recovery from cancer, as well as the improved quality of life.
Yeah, yeah. There is a lot of at least in terms of the research part, Saurabh. I know that we're um, trying to collect all that data and information, but we do have a lot of data in terms of testimonials and anecdotal evidence, like you mentioned, from other people just being healers and working on their patients. But yeah, you've said a lot of things there. I'm just trying to keep it all in my mind, but I love what you said because to kind of start off for those that don't maybe not as familiar with chronic healing, it's really a systematized protocol, as Rob has mentioned, and it takes the guesswork out. And even though we mentioned that there is the spiritual aspect, which is karma and other factors that can play a role in cancer, we ultimately understand that chronic healing is a complement. And like Rob has mentioned, in addition to conventional treatment, we're going to do the healing. We're going to tell the person to do meditation on twin hearts, right, to kind of reset their energy body, to reset that default pattern and shift it into the optimal pattern. So that's really really encouraging because we have a lot of success stories in pranic healing. We just don't have the organized research yet to present it that way, but we do have a couple things coming up in the pipeline. So that's really amazing. And Sarab, I know you said you specialize in healing cancer, and I know there's a lot of success stories there. And I know you mentioned that one patient of yours that in terms of the mental health improving. For cancer patients out there, what would you kind of tell them if they were coming to you first time? You're like, hey, I've heard about pranic healing. I heard there's some evidence that it might work, but I'm not so sure about it. What if they have some skepticism? What if they don't maybe necessarily believe in it 100%? What would you kind of tell those
So,
types of patients?
so normally, see, it's like this. What I normally, if you get what you're saying, this is the situation we encounter about 70% of the cases. Okay, unless someone who's got cancer, who's already got a background of pranic healing, they're much, much easier to work with because they really understand. Okay, so normally when we come across people, see, it's like this, some people are skeptical. And even before I learned pranic healing, I was a skeptic. I never really believed in energy healing is actually possible. When I was in my teens, I was like, what nonsense? Someone's waving their hands around, you getting better. How is that even possible? Right now, two or three ways at least I look at this is one of them is more important is then trying to convince them, try and help them understand how pranic healing really works. Okay, lots of times when they really understand what's really going on, it becomes a lot easier for them to at least start trusting the process. The second thing, which is the most important one, which is what I feel is, you can say I don't believe in electricity, touch a live wire, you're going to get a shock. Now, even if you don't believe in pranic healing, it's fine. As long as you're neutral, even if you're not super receptive, you're neutral, you have an open mind. All we tell people is, why don't you try it out for a month? See how you feel. In general, within about a month, people will always almost find an improvement in the quality of life, right? See, usually someone who's suffering from the disease, it's not just the mental health, it's also the physical health. People have gut issues, people have things like fatigue, I have no strength in my body hurts. The other very, very common problem which a lot of people will have is insomnia. They're going through treatment which causes a side effect. Lots and lots of times, again, with just about 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, people find there's a dramatic difference in their quality of life. When you talk about pain, you go talk about discomfort, a lot of that is better. When actually people see the results, that's when they start believing, that's when they start trusting. Again, specifically, one of the things, if I have to actually address this to someone who is battling cancer right now, fundamentally the way I look at it is possible for anyone to beat cancer, provided you're putting in the right amount of effort, right? So again, do not always rely that health will be external. There'll be doctors, there'll be medication, there will be healers. The good news is, you as an individual can also do lots and lots of things which can increase your odds of recovering and beating this disease quickly.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well said. And like you mentioned, there's so many different factors, and what I find is especially with the question I mentioned, like, sometimes I wonder, like, oh, what if the client, the patient doesn't believe in it, but does it still work? Which is a common question I get. And the thing I tell them too, going off your point, is like, energy is energy, right? Your thoughts are energy, your emotions are energy, even though you can't feel it, or if there's not a device to scan it and measure it, it's still out there. And the work that pranic healers do in terms of helping patients, there's so many times it still works no matter what, right? And like you said, it's two sides of the same coin: the energy body, the physical body. They're both very, very intimately connected there. So wonderful. And to kind of close off on this podcast, Robbie, you've really spoke about a lot, and I think I have to listen to the podcast again to really hear and listen, and to
Yeah, I
take
tend to
down
do
notes
that.
on what you mentioned. But it's great because I think it provides a foundation for a lot of new product healers, or people that are interested in product healing, or patients or clients that may be interested in healing, because like you said, it's such a comprehensive system, and it's really, really robust. It's really evidence based, meaning that the protocols have been tested, tried and true, over and over again, and do know that, like you said, if you have, breast cancer versus colon cancer, there's a completely different protocol, right? So it's not like we're doing the same things, but the evidence is there, and hopefully it'll catch up, and we're trying to push things out there. So thank you so much, Rob, for sharing all that. And to kind of
Sure.
close on the podcast, Sarab, I kind of ask this question for everyone now, and kind of relates to everything that you've spoken about. What is one piece of advice you would tell your 10-year-old younger self, 10-year-old Sarab? What would you tell him to kind of help him, on the life path, which is the journey that we're all on here? What would you tell him?
Let's see. So, one of the things possibly which I would tell my younger self, it's one of these quotes which really I heard it for the first time. It really stuck with me. Um, it goes a little bit like this: to have what others don't, you must be willing to do what others won't. Fundamentally, what it means, you want to excel in anything in your life, it takes effort, right? Excellence always will demand effort. Also, one of the most important aspects is the ability to show up every day, right? So again, what you fundamentally, when you're talking about improving your life, becoming a better person, being more successful, it's always not dependent on your mood, right? So sometimes there's some people who work in spots when they're inspired, right? That's exactly not what usually is the best recipe for success, because a lot of your output depends on your motivation, your mood. What's more important is show up every day, keep working on yourself, baby steps, the shark rule, keep moving forward, and irrespective of anything, we got to get there.
Yeah,
Right? It's just to
beautiful.
do with the power of perseverance, the power of discipline, the power of constancy. And that's one of the most important things I saw in my teacher, because every single day it was just about this. Can we spread pranic healing more? Little more, little more. And during his lifetime, Master himself was able to spread pranic healing in over what, 75, 80 countries? Quite crazy, right? In 25 years or so.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. I love that quote, and it's one of the reasons why, like you're saying, to spread the work, spread the teachings, and to help yourself, help others. That's really why we're doing all this. So thank you so much, Saurabh, for sharing your insights and stories and your personal experience with pranic healing and cancer. I think this has been a really tremendously helpful podcast for many people out there. And again, thank you for being so thorough and detailed as well, because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. And as you know, the world is changing so much, and I feel like the world is more open and ready than ever to have energy healing, pranic healing to be incorporated and integrated into conventional medical care. And I think that's a common goal for all of us that we can hopefully see in the near future soon there. But thank you so much, Rob, for coming on. For people that are
Thank you so much
interested,
for having me on. Thank you so much
yes,
for having me on.
yeah, and for people that are interested in finding you, Saurabh, I know I'll leave your links in the description, but any places you want to direct the audience to?
Generally, the best place to find me is on my Instagram, Facebook, usually Instagram, better
Okay.
place.
All right, sounds good. So we'll have us Rob's social media links down below, and that's it for this podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like and rating down below. And if you really enjoy this podcast, please consider subscribing to support the operations of this podcast and helping us get amazing guest speakers like Sarab on the show. So thank you so much. Atma Namaste, Sarab. Atma Namaste
Namaste.
to everyone. Thank you
And
so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.